Act 1. The Spark. Can a country buy its way into luxury by charging the travelers who built its reputation more to walk through the door? Walk down to the water at Cholong Pier in Phuket, and you will find Samchai waiting by his longtail boat. For 10 years, his livelihood has depended on a simple, predictable equation. Tourists arrive with a few thousand baht, they rent his boat for the afternoon, and he takes them out to the limestone cliffs of Panga Bay. But lately, that equation has broken down completely. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz, thousands of miles away, has sent fuel shocks rippling across Southeast Asia. Samchai now pays double what he did a few months ago just to fill his tank. To survive, he had to raise his day trip prices. The result was immediate. His bookings plummeted. Samchai is caught in a global vice. He is squeezed by domestic costs he cannot control, waiting for visitors who are already paying much more just to get on a plane to Southeast Asia. This is not just one boat operator's headache. Thailand's entire tourism economy, an engine that generates trillions of baht annually and employs millions of everyday citizens, is being squeezed from both ends simultaneously. Thailand built its entire modern economic identity on being affordable, accessible, and unbelievably generous with value. What happens to a nation when it stops being cheap at exactly the moment the rest of the world gets more expensive? Act 2. The Foundation. To understand how deep this challenge goes, we have to look at how completely Thailand staked its economic future on the hospitality of its people. Unlike Indonesia with its immense mineral wealth or Malaysia with its state petroleum reserves, Thailand's most successful export is not something you dig out of the ground. It is the experience of being in Thailand. It is the beaches, the street food, the historic temples, and the hospitality. In a normal year, tourism accounts for approximately 12% of Thai gross domestic product, a figure that reflects the full contribution to the economy, including the hotels, transport, food, and supply chains that run behind every arriving visitor. In a normal year, tourism accounts for approximately 12% of Thai gross domestic product, a figure that reflects the full contribution to the economy, including the hotels, transport, food, and supply chains that run behind every arriving visitor. Everything else, manufacturing, agriculture, exports, makes up the remaining 88%. The entire domestic ecosystem is built on a single foundational assumption, which is that Thailand delivers more joy per dollar than anywhere else on earth. The backpacker from China, the family from South Korea, and the salaried office worker from across the region all arrived because their money went further here. Right now, that deal, what travelers pay versus what they receive, is facing pressure from 3 different directions at once. The entire domestic ecosystem is built on a single foundational assumption, which is that Thailand delivers more joy per dollar than anywhere else on earth. The backpacker from China, the family from South Korea, and the salaried office worker from across the region all arrived because their money went further here. Right now, that deal, what travelers pay versus what they receive, is facing pressure from 3 different directions at once. First, global airfares across Southeast Asia have jumped by up to 40% due to fuel surcharges linked to the maritime shipping crises. For a traveler from Seoul or Sydney already stretched by post-pandemic costs, 40% more for the flight changes the conversation entirely. Second, the Thai government is raising its international airport departure tax by 53%, pushing the fee to 1,120 baht per person starting June 2026. Third, a 300 baht tourist entry fee approved in principle in 2023 is now in active cabinet discussion over timing and scope, with a mid-2026 rollout targeted. Samchai did not cause the shipping crisis. He did not vote on the tax hike, and he has no say in the entry fee debate. Yet he is the one standing on an empty pier, absorbing the impact of all 3. Act 3. The money or incentive question. Why would a government choose to raise costs for visitors at the exact moment global travel is becoming more expensive? The answer comes down to financial pressure hidden behind infrastructure expansion. Airports of Thailand, the state-controlled operator, needs to fund a massive modernization program. They are building the new South Terminal at Suvarnabhumi Airport in Bangkok and expanding capacity across 6 regional airports. The departure tax has not seen a meaningful increase in roughly 20 years. From a strict infrastructure accounting perspective, the timing makes sense. The runways must be built, and the passengers using them are the ones expected to pay. But from a competitive standpoint, the move carries major risks. At 1,120 baht, Thailand's new departure tax is nearly double the average rate charged by its closest neighbors. Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam all sit in the range of 500 to 600 baht. For a family of 4, the gap between Thailand and the regional average is not a rounding error. It is a 4,000 baht conversation about whether to book a different country entirely. It forces a choice. It makes a traveler look at Bali instead of Phuket, Penang instead of Chiang Mai, or Da Nang instead of Koh Samui. This friction has exposed a clear divide within the Thai state. The Tourism Council of Thailand has actively petitioned the government to delay the proposed entry fee because local businesses cannot absorb another negative price signal. The infrastructure officials want the immediate revenue to pour concrete, while the tourism officials want low friction to attract crowds. Both sides cannot have exactly what they want at the same time. Act 4. The consequence chain. The Tourism Authority of Thailand has a clear strategic answer to this volume problem. They want to stop chasing sheer numbers altogether. The official strategy is a pivot from volume to value. The goal is to deliberately target luxury travelers, wellness tourists, and long-stay visitors who spend heavily each day while placing less strain on local infrastructure. On paper, this has genuine logic behind it. A wealthier visitor base could, in theory, generate more revenue from fewer arrivals, reduce overcrowding at popular sites, and push Thai tourism toward a premium positioning it has long aspired to. In practice, it is an incredibly risky gamble. The global luxury market is small, fickle, and fiercely competitive. When Thailand tries to compete exclusively for travelers with significant money to spend, people who think nothing of $1,000 a night room, it enters a crowded arena. The Maldives established high-end enclaves in Bali, Japan, and it does so while carrying a new reputation for rising domestic costs. Meanwhile, the budget and mid-market travelers who are being deprioritized by this strategy are the very people who sustain the local economy. They are the ones who buy street food, rent scooters, stay in family-run guest houses, and hire long-tail boats. If those visitors divert to lower-cost alternatives in Vietnam or Indonesia, the entire base of the tourism pyramid hollows out. Consider the math. A wealthy traveler staying at an isolated 5-star resort in Phuket does not replace the economic velocity of 20 mid-market tourists exploring local streets. The adverse consequence chain is already visible. The numbers are already moving in the wrong direction. Thailand has slashed its 2026 foreign tourist arrival target from 34 million down to 32.14 million. Total annual tourism revenue projections have been dragged down to 1.52 trillion baht based on late 2025 estimates. And the Tourism Confidence Index for the first quarter of 2026 fell to 80 below the 83 recorded during the same period last year. Act 5. The Deeper Implication. The current friction in Bangkok reveals a deeper vulnerability that every tourism-reliant economy in Southeast Asia faces today. How do you build long-term economic stability when your primary source of revenue depends entirely on the disposable income and movement of foreign citizens? A security crisis in the Middle East, a spike in global jet fuel prices, and a sudden surge in airfares did not start in the Gulf of Thailand. They landed on the beaches of Phuket anyway. Samchai has no way to hedge against a geopolitical dispute in a shipping lane he has never seen. His business is entirely hostage to external forces. The strategy to target luxury visitors is a natural defensive instinct, but it treats the issue as a marketing problem rather than a structural risk. It assumes that changing the type of visitor can insulate a country from the volatile nature of global travel itself. Thailand is not alone in this. Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia all watch this shift carefully, knowing that the same external shocks that squeeze Phuket today can reach Da Nang, Siem Reap, or Lombok tomorrow. The question is not whether disruption comes. It is which economies have quietly built enough of a foundation to absorb it. As regional competition intensifies and global travel costs remain high, the old model of relying on cheap flights and endless volume is being tested like never before. And it forces us to look past the holiday brochures and ask something more fundamental. When the world becomes more expensive and people stay closer to home, which economies have built a real foundation to fall back on? And which ones are left waiting at an empty terminal? Which economies have a real foundation and which ones are left waiting? This is Hero from the ASEAN angle.